Order! Order!
It was Boris Johnson's first parliamentary vote as British Prime Minister, and he lost it.
Not a good start, Boris.
The ayes to the right, 328. The noes to the left, 301. So the ayes have it, the ayes have it. Unlocked.
Johnson was hit by a huge rebellion among his own Conservative MPs. 21 of them joined the opposition to seize the Brexit agenda, costing Johnson his working majority. They're trying to pass a law that would delay the UK's exit from the EU and prevent a no-deal Brexit. Johnson insists, deal or no deal, Brexit will happen on October the 31st. He says he has no option now but to call for an early general election.
I don't want an election, but if MPs vote tomorrow to stop negotiations and to compel another pointless delay to Brexit, potentially for years, then that would be the only way to resolve this.
But Johnson could struggle to get a two-thirds majority needed to approve an early poll. Opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has long called for elections, but now says he won't agree to them until the anti-no-deal bill passes.
For a general election, there is no consent in this House to leave the European Union without a deal. There is no majority for no deal in the country.
On Wednesday, the cross-party alliance will introduce their bill to delay Brexit. With October 31 just over 8 weeks away, all the turmoil and political manoeuvring is only stoking more confusion about how and when Brexit will happen.
Well, for the very latest, let's cross over to our correspondent Charlotte Potts in London, and our correspondent Max Hoffman is standing by for us in Brussels. Let's start with you, Charlotte. High drama in the British Parliament. Where does it go from here, starting with today?
Well, we've witnessed quite an extraordinary showdown yesterday there in Parliament after Boris Johnson essentially lost that vote and Parliament seized the order paper. He kicked out 21 members out of his Conservative Party, so those rebels that voted against him. So Boris Johnson in Parliament has definitely lost his majority, and we're expecting that showdown to continue today in Parliament. We are expecting later this afternoon a vote on whether to force Boris Johnson's hand, whether to force him to ask the European Union for yet another extension, this time until January 31st. This is what this bill is about. It has to be approved, first of all, by Parliament and then also by the House of Lords. So this will drag on in the course of the week. And if that vote is successful, Boris Johnson has already said he is calling for another election, for a general election. He believes he has lost the leverage to negotiate with the European Union to find another deal, and therefore he is seeking another mandate, a mandate this time around to really see his Brexit through and for the UK to leave the European Union by October 31st. So we might see a general election here in the UK coming up very soon.
Max, a fluid situation there in London, a crumbling government. What do these developments mean for the EU and its preparations for Brexit?
Yeah, Charlotte just said that Boris Johnson believes he might lose his leverage with the EU. I think the consensus here in Brussels is he really never had any leverage, but believe it or not, his chief Brexit envoy, David Frost, is in town to officially negotiate things like the backstop, very contentious. That is the insurance policy against a hard border between Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, which is part of the European Union. And you remember when Boris Johnson said they're making good progress and a deal with the EU was within reach and that he had plans to replace this backstop with an alternative. Well, EU officials here in Brussels say they've never seen any of those plans, that these plans do not exist. And that's why many here think that the real plan of the Johnson administration is to have a no-deal Brexit. So that's what the EU is preparing for right now, expected to announce new measures to get the European Union prepared for a no-deal Brexit.
Well, Charlotte, as you mentioned, Boris Johnson has lost his majority now in Parliament. Has a general election in the UK now become unavoidable?
Well, everything seems to lead up to a general election. That is absolutely right. The question is just how and when is this going to happen? On the how, Boris Johnson is seeking a general election. He has said that, but he needs a two-thirds majority in Parliament to see that through. We might see a vote on that later today, and we will have to see if the Labour Party, the opposition party, approves of a general election. They have said they will do so if that bill that I mentioned before will come through. So this is on the how. On the when, Boris Johnson is seeking a general election on October 15th. That is the date we are hearing right now. That would be shortly before the big EU summit where Brexit and the deadline and a possible no-deal Brexit is going to be discussed. That is what we are hearing, but Parliament is very afraid that Boris Johnson might send them, he has prorogued Parliament, that Boris Johnson might send them on vacation, on a break, and then push those general elections back to November 1st. So one day after the UK has left the European Union, possibly, if it is after Boris Johnson's opinion, possibly after that day where the UK has left the European Union with a no deal, with a hard Brexit. So we'll have to see where this leads today, but a general election does seem very likely, and if it comes to that, it will be more of a referendum again on whether to stay in the European Union or not, a question that really has divided this country over the past years.
Max, there's a good chance that the UK will ask the EU for another extension of the Brexit deadline. Will the EU grant them that?
Yeah, this is going to be a topic in any case. We expect that at least, first of all, because of what's happening in the House of Commons right now, that Boris Johnson might be forced by Parliament to do that. But even in the case of snap elections, you might have a new government, and that will have very little time to sort things out. So this is likely to come. Many, at least here, think it's likely to come. But remember what happened in April back then when they extended the Brexit deadline for the first time. It was a very tough thing to do, not because of Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. She seems more in the camp of we have this historic responsibility, and if we have more time to sort this out, then we should take it. But Emmanuel Macron, the French president, he was very hard to convince already in April, and it'll be even harder this time around. He'll only do it with a real perspective that things in the UK actually will change. So the outcome of snap elections might give him that reasoning, might be the thing that he needs to do that. But in any case, the EU automatically granting an extension, not going to happen. It'll need, like I said, some serious convincing.
A lot of uncertainty there. DW's Max Hoffman there in Brussels. Thank you so much. And to Charlotte in London, Charlotte Potts, thanks again.